I was in school taking science classes, the majority of my educational sort of understanding and foundation came from textbooks. There really wasn't a lot of hands-on and experiments. We had a few, but it really wasn't many that were offered to really get me into the concept of science, the idea of science.
Right.
So what would be some, if you're talking to students right now, and I'm sure you have done this thousands of times in the past, why is science important? Like, why is that a subject that people should really understand, particularly young people, and understand more about, as opposed to most people are stressed, they stress math, they stress language arts. I know STEM is really big right now, but why is it? Why is it important if you're talking to students?
Two things come to mind. Science helps us to understand the world around us, helps us to answer those questions that our brain naturally populates. When you walk outside, you see the sky is blue. You don't have to tell your brain to ask, why is the sky blue? Well, science offers those explanations, help you to understand the world around you. But even more so, as we think about where we're headed in terms of the career options that are down the line, science is the one class in high school that teaches students to be problem solvers, teaches students to be critical thinkers. No knock on any other subject. I love all subjects. But education teaches you to communicate, which is important. History teaches you about what has happened so that you can choose whether to recreate that or steer yourself away from it. History teaches you what has happened. Education, English teaches you how to communicate. Science is the one class that teaches you how to think, how to solve a problem. And we need more of that as we go forward. Those are the types of jobs, those are the necessary qualities that are going to become important for the skilled professionals of the future. That's what we need to be passing on to students. That's why there's so much of an increased emphasis on science and STEM throughout schools
now. What is
now.
STEM again?
STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math.
Okay.
Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. That conglomerate or that collection of classes kind of work hand in hand.
Right. So I'm a parent, and I want my child to be more involved in science, right? And I might, but I really don't know exactly how to expose them to more opportunities to engage in science, right? So what could be something that I could do that's, so you have your classroom teacher, right, teaching science, but if I were a parent and I want to say, I'm listening to this and say, you know what, I need to do some more things to get involved with STEM, or to get my child involved in some type of science camp or activities. What are some things that I can do as a parent? What would you recommend?
As a parent, I would encourage them to look towards whatever the university is in the area.
Okay.
A lot of universities, I think all the universities across the state, have an outreach component where they have programs that are designed to work with even elementary school kids. Elementary school kids, middle school kids, high school kids, in a variety of different ways. Some of them are on the weekends, some of them are in the afternoons after school, some of them are during the summer. So as a parent myself of 4-year-old kids, when my kids get old enough at 6 and 7, I will start to explore those opportunities to funnel my kids into those. And really it's the thing to do, to keep your kids occupied, help them to be excited about careers.
I'm a student. Let's say I'm an inspiring student who doesn't really know what I want to do in school. I don't really know what I want to do in life. But I do know I want to have a great experience while I'm at school. I do want to learn.
Right.
What would you advise a student like me to do to follow the route of what you portray in your message and how you teach your students?
I think until you find out what you want to do, you have to expose yourself to as many possibilities out there as possible. Investigate what different people do. And it's about, if I were a teenager now trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I would have as many conversations as I can with as many adults as I can find about what they do at work. And not just adults in my family, not just adults in my neighborhood, but adults in other places. Hey, what do you do at work? Where do you work? And what does that look like on a daily basis? What are your responsibilities at work? How happy do you feel in your career? And receive that feedback, and hopefully you'll land on the thing that really makes you happy. I wish I'd have done more of that as a teenager. I would have chosen the thing that makes me happy first, instead of choosing back then the thing that I thought made my parents happy.
And what do you think some strategies I guess that you would recommend for teachers, whether it be first-year teachers or even 5-year teachers, and sometimes veteran teachers? What is a message, or even possibly some strategies that you would just like to speak on to kind of keep them engaged with promoting excellence in their classrooms for their students and things like that? What's something that you would say to? Because I taught for a couple of years. I know what the burnout is, right?
Yes.
I do know what it feels like to not really be appreciated or constantly being second guessed, from a variety of different sources. I know what the paperwork involves, all these different things. And so sometimes it's hard to keep that fire burning. And sometimes also we stick to the same type of strategy to teach. We don't really push ourselves. So if you were talking to some teachers, whomever it may be, what's something that you would like to just share with them?
A couple of things. The thing that's helped me recently, I would encourage teachers to follow their students after they leave your classroom. Find a healthy way to follow your students. The thing about teaching is that the reward is very often delayed. During the time when you're teaching, you don't know if what you're doing or what you're saying is making a difference. Because kids are kids, right? They don't tell you, hey, Mr. Lewis, you're changing my life here. Even they don't know. But if you find healthy ways to follow your students, if I was an elementary teacher, I would want to know how my students did once they got to middle school. If I was a middle school teacher, I would want to know how my students did when they got to high school. And then we all want to know what they do once they leave 12th grade. I've found a healthy way to do that with my students. Like I mentioned earlier, a number of my students have gone on to become professionals in their own right. And that fuels me on a day-to-day basis when I'm looking at my current students. And I can tell myself, I don't even know if this is sinking in, but I believe that it will because it worked before. So find a healthy way to follow your students. And then the second thing is make sure that you're passionate about what you're saying. Passion is the difference maker. If you can't expect your students to be excited about the subject if you're not excited about the subject. You have to lead by example. If I want my kids to be excited about science, but that's because I'm excited about science. And in reality, my excitement about science is trumped by my excitement about their future. Whether my students go on to be scientists or not is completely up to them. But this is one of those things that's going to set you up to do well in college, to go on and be whatever that thing is you want to be. One of my students is he's into engineering. Another one of my students just switched from engineering to drama. And I'm equally proud of them as I am of the student who's gone into science. I want them to be whatever they want to be. I want them to be successful. And I'm passionate about that. I'm intentional about that. I talk to my students about their plans for their future. I set aside time in my class to talk about, hey, what are you going to do when you leave here? What do you want to be?